Hello. The call has.
Hey,
Hey, Ayush.
uh,
Naveen.
Good morning, V.
good
Morning.
morning.
Hi,
There he is,
hello,
Mr. Prosper.
good day.
Excited for the launch today.
Yeah. The launch, like the DockerCon thing.
I meant the SpaceX Crew Dragon launch.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The literal launch. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Uh, how many people are going up? Do you know?
Two astronauts are going though. Yeah, today.
Okay. These are SpaceX employees.
No, these are from NASA, and the ship is from SpaceX.
Okay. Well, it shows how little I've been able to pay attention to things going on elsewhere. Oh, that's cool. Hey, Prosper it, uh, is Prosper your first name or your last name?
Yeah, Prosper is my first name. My last name is Opera.
Okay, very good. Very good. Nice. Hey, thanks for coming on the call. Very nice to have you. I think we had you on in the past, but then had some technical difficulties. I think
Yeah,
we never really got you introduced. So today's going to be the day. This is good. Um, maybe we'll
okay. Thanks very much for that. I really appreciate it.
nice. And so actually, let me invite you to do a quick introduction, if you would, sort of say hi to folks and introduce.
Okay. Yeah, not to waste any much of our time. My name is Prosper Para. Yeah, I'm a full stack software developer based in Africa, Nigeria precisely. Yeah, so I discovered the Meshery project when I was actually trying to get into GSOC 2020. Yeah, eventually I didn't get in, but through encouragement from Mr. Lee, I stayed back and have been trying to set up my development environment. So I kind of have some technical difficulty setting up my ENV, so that's why I've not really been active as per contributing codes to the project. But I'm trying my best to keep up and still hang around in the community. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it really is great to have you, Prosper. We've had, well, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's been nice to be able to chat with you over text, but having you on the call is great as well. Um, you are not alone in your hardware issues during the coronavirus pandemic. Um, Naveen as an example, has a fan that's on its last leg, I think.
I guess it is almost fixed now. Like it has not caused any issue since past 2 days.
Hasn't? Okay, good. So, but that's for about a month, I think, was really preventing Naveen from doing any big compiling jobs. So at the time, Naveen, you were working on the Meshery adapter and compiling it was like,
Yep. The Istio adapter and Istio service mesh actually requires a lot of like memory and CPU.
yeah, which was pretty funny because it was right at a critical moment in which Naveen, Shivai, and Kanishkar were helping deliver Istio training through O'Reilly, and Naveen saved the day with some fixes in the Istio adapter, but I think that was after a few times of overheating his laptop. So um, anyway, there's I forget who else. There's a couple. There's two other people actually. I'm supposed to take a note for Kush Trivedi, who had a power outage, so he's just sent his regrets. I was talking to him earlier, and then he was gone. And Nitish knows that power outages happen since they happened to us last night. Okay. All right, fair enough. Maybe we're 7 minutes after. We've got a couple of topics listed. And I know that we've got any number of others. If you've got topics, go ahead and drop them in. So in no particular order, maybe we'll begin to jump in here. I was just chatting a little bit with Naveen about part of me fading to the background on some of the calls and how he's been involved in many aspects of the project and can help steward some of these calls. And so I don't know that really very few people have context for this next topic though, which has to do with the DockerCon presentation that's being given tomorrow. So Kanishkar J in the community, I don't think he's on the call right now. I think he is working on this as we speak. But if you know Kanishkar, he is presenting at DockerCon tomorrow. And he's showing off some work that he's done within Rust, within WebAssembly. And as such, he has created a sample app. We gave the sample app a quick name called Image Hub. Let me show you what that looks like briefly so that you've got the right context, and then we can kind of move on. As I'm bringing it up, is anyone familiar with the sample app Image Hub just yet, and kind of its purpose, why we're using it at DockerCon? Okay, good. If you're not, then that means that this is a topic worth talking about. Okay. Right now, does everyone see a slide called Image Hub on Docker Desktop? I think that's what I'm sharing. I think okay, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, just so very briefly, sneak peek at what Kanishkar is presenting tomorrow, and that is that's this sample app. It's called Image Hub. It's out in the Layer 5 org, GitHub org. New repo. It is in need of a couple of things. One of those being having a workflow created for it. The app itself is made up of, well, the app itself is made up of 2 containers. Actually, it's kind of an interesting, I paused there because it's like, well, technically, the app is made up of 2 containers and a WASM module and an Envoy filter. Anyway, to make this brief, very simple app. It has a web front end written in Vue.js, and it has, well, something of a back end. It's a very simple Go app that has a few different API endpoints. And they don't really do much other than receive requests from the front end and either allow the request or don't allow the request. So the app itself doesn't actually perform the functions that you see on the screen. The app itself, by the way, is really just kind of a very quick ripoff of Docker Hub. And so context is, it's a simple app that shows you a list of repositories and lets people make pulls, like pull down the image. Or it doesn't let you make a pull request, not a pull request. It doesn't let you pull down the image. And it does that based on the configuration of the WebAssembly module. The module either rate limits the user or it doesn't. And he's demonstrating this on console, or using console and running this sample app. And so to make the demo more interesting, it's a bit more interesting when you have a workload to play with. And so Kanishkar created this small app, and the small app is stored in this repo. It doesn't yet have, though, a workflow that works. So I think just a few minutes ago, there was a pull request that was merged. And as part of that pull request being merged, a GitHub action was kicked off and failed because I think it's an invalid workflow file. It's a very simple workflow. Right now, it just talks about doing one job, and that's building the container images and pushing them. So the reason I'm covering this is we can cover this again on Monday in the CI working group call. But to the extent that anyone would like to try their hand at a smaller workflow, a simpler workflow, this is a good opportunity to go give that a shot. You can't do any harm because it doesn't work anyway. So if you're interested, go, either if you got questions now, or, ask, or go take the issue and assign it to yourself, or what have you. Assuming there isn't necessarily a ton of interest, moving on, the next topic that was written here is about, it's one of the issues that Ayush is looking into. It's related to an issue that Ayush is looking into. Manish had written up a guide to how to connect Prometheus and how to connect Grafana within Meshery. And I haven't looked at the guide yet. Yep. So this is probably more or less something of a regurgitation of the Istio workshop that we give. And so what this is saying is that when you run Meshery, you deploy Istio, and if you deploy the book info sample app for Istio, you can have Meshery connect to Prometheus and connect to Grafana, pull back metrics, and show dashboards. You can do that because the configuration of Istio that we deploy includes an instance of Prometheus, and it includes an instance of Grafana in its control plane. And right now we leave it such that there are a couple of manual steps that need to be taken in order for Meshery to connect to Prometheus and Grafana. And so that's what Manish is outlining here. The reality is that in reality, we should not make it that people need to take these manual steps. We should make it such that the deployment that we make exposes and has Meshery auto connect to Prometheus and Grafana. So that there's a bit of work that someone could pick up there and do. This particular ask is just to review the write-up that Manish has done. And so, I think most of you know, but if it isn't obvious already, anytime that there's an open PR, anyone is welcome to weigh in and make some comments and provide suggestions. Doing a review of a PR is a great way to get familiar with various aspects of the project. So Ayush, I suggested to you that maybe this is a good one for you to look at, just because it's related to some investigations that you're doing currently.
Yeah, right. I too was having a bit of trouble with installing Prometheus. So what I did to get it running is I just installed. I just spin up a container with Grafana, and I use the URL to connect it with Meshery. I mean, I just put the URL in Meshery for Grafana and got it running from there.
Okay, and then after you can, when were you able to connect from Meshery?
Yep, it worked perfectly after that.
And then very good, and then the issue with that, like that instance of Grafana was one that you had set up separately, correct?
Yeah, right.
Good, and that's totally valid, and that's a good validation actually that Meshery will connect to any Grafana instance, that it doesn't have to be a Grafana instance that's connected to Istio specifically. Probably the challenge that you would have in that environment is that that Grafana instance wouldn't necessarily have interesting metrics, maybe.
Yeah, right. I was just testing for the issue about the results page in the Meshery UI, so that's what I was looking for. Maybe something, maybe it has something to do with Istio as well, because I didn't connect Istio to Grafana, so maybe that might be something to ponder on.
Right. Well, that's actually something we could kind of review and troubleshoot on the call. Before we do, which might be time well spent, but before we do, let me pause and ask if anyone has other things they want to talk about or other topics that they'd like to cover. There was, so Nitish was on the call a little bit earlier. There was something to Meshery CTL update to chat through while he was here. Maybe if he rejoins, we can chat about that. And then I guess considering the rest of us that are on the call, probably Ayush jumping in and looking at this issue is probably the best use of our time. So, so let me bring up my environment and help show kind of what the issue is that we're facing. Ayush, do you have a link to the GitHub issue so that people can see what I'm talking about? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so here's an issue that Ayush is looking into and troubleshooting, and it seems to be an issue that is occurring in the UI, or it seems to be the UI issue. And so what's going on is that users will have deployed a service mesh. They will have deployed a sample app. They'll run a performance test. Sometimes they run those performance tests against the sample app. They generate a bunch of load and then measure the response of that load against the app that's deployed on the mesh. They can also generate a bunch of load against an endpoint that is not on the mesh. Maybe they want to hit like google.com or something like that. While anytime that a performance test is run, a bunch of load is generated. Statistical analysis is run on the response time and the throughput of that load, how the service is responding. At the same time, if Meshery is connected to Grafana, or I believe if it's connected to Prometheus, and I'm not quite sure of the combination, but it will gather other environmental information from Prometheus and Grafana and include that in the result set. And so what this recording is showing is that some of these result sets are broken, or rather the display of them is broken. And I think it's the result sets when Prometheus and Grafana are connected. And so that's the issue. Let me demonstrate that issue. And to do that, let me maybe just share my whole screen. Because I think it'll just be easier to see. Okay, so I've got, I don't think I have Meshery running yet. System start. I'm bringing up Meshery. Let me sign in as myself. Or as the Meshery Twitter handle. It probably really doesn't matter. So I signed in as the Layer 5 Twitter handle. Within there, there's a few things that continue to bug me. So Naveen, I think this is something that you've looked into, and that is that it's not auto connecting to my Meshery isn't auto connecting to my Kubernetes environment. Did we ever get that figured out? Did we determine that was an issue specific to mine?
Yeah, I guess it was working on my system when I was using QVDM, but I guess it might have been cached from the server.
And so are you able to reproduce that issue now where you start at Meshery and it doesn't have a connection to Kubernetes?
I am not able to reproduce it locally. Maybe using Docker desktop, it might be able to.
Okay. Huh. Okay. That's another one that's bothersome. But okay, so here I am. I do not have a connection to Prometheus or Grafana. If I go run a performance test, let's say that I run it against something that's not local, and really I don't think that this matters whether it's local or not. I don't need to give the test a name or necessarily select a particular mesh. But we'll just go generate a quick test. So why is that failing? Using Fort.io, I'm signed in. I am using a different version of the load generator. I don't know how many of you have seen this new request headers field. So let me start Meshery again, but this time just with the current release. Hopefully it uses.
Okay, so I don't know why, but I always confuse uh, Prometheus with Grafana. I always mix these two up. So what I did was I tested it with Prometheus, and uh, and uh, and was not able to reproduce the error. So and maybe that was what you said was causing the error uh, with Prometheus. So maybe I need to check it with Grafana as well.
Oh,
And yeah, the container method for Prometheus worked perfectly. I mean, it connected well. I didn't check it with Grafana as well.
okay. Yeah, it's actually one of those things where we need to or we should go look at the code and the behavior of the code. because yeah, I'm not sure if it's Prometheus or Grafana that's the linchpin here for collecting that additional information about the environment. My assumption would be that, I mean, that it's Prometheus that is the one that we're relying on. What happens here is essentially mesh sync runs at the moment that the performance test is run. Okay, so let me set up the environment again real quick. Oh, I guess so. I'm not connected. This is too bad. Okay. In my environment, I'm not running Istio. This is another kind of a bug here. What's going on? Why is the Istio adapter not connected? Huh. The adapter is inactive. Maybe the container isn't even up. So it came up last. I'm not sure if the container is ready yet. Oh no, I'm sorry. It didn't come up last. Meshery came up last. But yeah, so this is turning into a bit more of a troubleshooting thing than I thought. Oh, wait a second. Maybe my Meshery config is a bit off. If I go look at the configuration for Meshery itself, it says that we're running Meshery Istio adapter on port 10,000. But what was weird just then is it says it was serving gRPC on port 10,010. So I think I've got a mix of in my environment, I was running two different Istio adapters, one on 10,010, one on 10,000. So this is turning into a goose chase. I'm just removing old images that I don't need. I don't need because one of those is an Istio, a Meshery Istio adapter image that was configured to run on port 10,010, which is just separate from the normal port 10,000 port. Okay, yeah, maybe that's, I'm sorry, maybe that image is gone because I was pruning at the same time. I don't know. Anyway, this is latest. It was built 17 hours ago. That's great. I also have this. This is maybe our issue. That's the image ID. Should be able to get rid of that, right? So if you guys are familiar with Sudeep, who's in the community, I was showing him something and it created a different container image for him. Okay. Should be good to go now. Huh. Right. All right, so the image that's the container image that's being used for this Meshery Istio adapter is this image here. Host port 10,000. Host port 10,000. Why is it running gRPC on port 10,010? Okay, so the latest image, or the image ID is this here, 37B1, 93EA. Where's Istio? Container ID, that's not what I'm. That is the same, this is the image that's being used to run that. This has been created 17 hours ago. Do we have an accidental, oh yeah, you know what? So I just introduced a bug that we need to raise. Last night I was going through, opening up, just changing a bit of information and some broken hyperlinks in the README, in the images of the READMEs of each of the adapters, or of each of the repos. And when I did that, I had locally changed the host port in my repo here locally, and probably I inadvertently pushed that change here as well. That's what I'm assuming. And so if this has got 10,000 in it, then we're, yeah. So close your eyes, everyone. Bad practice. Changing this back. Great, okay. So anyway, Ayush, that'll take a minute to build and then push to Docker Hub and then download. And so maybe not the best use of our time to try to, like that, that'll take a little while to come back. Does everyone understand what just happened? It's a good learning situation.
Yeah, I mean, what I actually do to set up my development environment is I just use the makefile commands to run the development server in the of the Meshery. And actually, the reason for that partially is I was having some trouble with the Meshery CTL. Um, I don't know. It was causing some permissions issue. So Can anyone just tell me if there is something else I need to do with that?
Yeah, let's take a look. Maybe I'll try it from the direction that you are. So I have Meshery Istio locally checked out here. I just committed a change a moment ago, so I'm pulling down the latest changes. And so you're saying, hey, when you go to do this, you'll just do like a make run here to locally build and run an instance of the adapter. And are you saying when you do a make run that you run into a permission issue? Or are you saying when you try to run Meshery CTL, that's when you run into a permission issue?
No, actually, when I run Meshery CTL, that's when I run into the permission, not
Okay.
not with the make command.
Okay, very good. That's interesting. I guess tell me that what's likely happening is that, so I don't know how many of you, some of you know this already, but some might not, is that Meshery CTL as a small Go application or Go binary, it does, one of the things that it does is that it wraps Docker Compose. It wraps the Docker Compose CLI. So it will call to Docker Compose for various functions like starting up Meshery. And Ayush, another way of troubleshooting this is on your local machine, when you try to do a Docker Compose up or I don't know, Docker Compose version or something, if you're having, you might be having a permission issue there.
Right, right. Actually, I was having that, and I fixed it a little while ago. Actually, Docker Compose and Docker commands you always required sudo as I installed them with Snap. So, yep, I fixed that and a couple of while ago, and I didn't check if Meshery CTL was working after that.
Okay.
So maybe
You have probably fixed your issue then. That was the most likely culprit, and you're probably fine now. Yeah, as long as Docker or Docker Compose doesn't require sudo or has sudo, then you're okay.
great. Maybe we should mention it in the README as well for the Meshery CTL.
Yeah, that's great. Ayush, what do you want to pop open a quick issue to capture that? Because that's a good.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah. It actually makes for a good troubleshooting section in the docs too, because those that would go to interact with it may or may not. Yeah. Anyway, like the using Meshery CTL, that would be great if there was a troubleshooting section.
Cool.
Okay, so assuming that you're beyond past that, I'm running. I can stop Meshery here, build the Meshery Istio adapter locally, as well as Meshery locally, and then we can kind of debug the thing that we were working on. I'll run Meshery locally, and I'll also run the Istio adapter locally. And this shouldn't take too long. When this comes up, we can proceed with kind of troubleshooting the Prometheus issue. All right, so Meshery is built. It should be running here. It is in this, no, it's still not able to connect to Docker desktop. And then of the, so port 10,000 is the port that the Istio adapter runs on. And so it was able to connect locally. Great. So now I'm connected to Docker desktop, to Istio, and I'll go ahead and go quickly deploy an instance of Istio. And after that comes up, I'll also deploy an instance of Book Info, the sample app. So, shit. So we're running into all kinds of issues. So Naveen, you were talking about Istio 1.6 and part of our issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, so right now, if I'm running it locally, it's going to try to download 1.6.
Yeah.
Okay, and not use the cached 1.5.
No, yeah. So if you are running it through Docker desktop or production version, then it will use 1.5.
Got it. Okay.
Or you could just modify the release URL, um, and then you will have to like manually build.
Got
Just in the Istio install Istio, there like instead of latest, you have to write tag slash one v1.5.0.
Oh, okay. Got it. This might be equally as quick, just because the new image of the Meshery Istio adapter was pushed to Docker Hub, and I just pulled it down. And so
Oh.
in the time that we were fiddling around, and so or that I was fiddling around. And so now I think, so anyway, so now I'm not running them locally, or I'm running them locally, but I canceled my builds and just used Meshery CTL to run them to run Meshery in Docker Desktop. Okay, great, which means that we can go over to Istio and do a deployment of Istio. This will be Istio 1.5. While that's coming up here, hopefully, we will then deploy book info after Istio comes up. Crash loop back off. That's a shame. Running. Come on. So Naveen, this begs part of that other question about that we were kind of discussing about how to eventually expose controls in the UI and over the versions of the service meshes that the adapters will provision. Yeah.
So
I think,
we can modify the install command, but we will have to hard code the versions that way. Like we can provide option to install latest, install 1.5, install 1.4, and then modify the URL on that basis.
yeah, we could either hard code. Yeah, we could hard code the. I think that's probably about true. That if we're taking a different approach to performing the deployment of that service mesh on a per version basis, that we would probably within the adapter hard code the supported versions and the appropriate deployment methodology to use based on that version. I think that you're right. So Ayush, we're essentially almost there. We've got the setup almost ready. Okay, and Grafana is running here. This instance of Grafana is running. It's the one that comes with Istio, and so it's got some built-in dashboards. Great. So before I connect it, let's just go run a performance test against the Bookinfo app that's also running. Is here. But it's just running on my local machine, just because we're, it's right here, right? That's the Bookinfo app. Okay, so let's go do a quick performance test and try to recreate, reproduce the issue. Take the URL to the Bookinfo app. Come over and paste that as the URL to test. We'll just run, a very short test. Maybe we'll select Istio just for good measure. And actually, that's important to note each of those steps. So I did select Istio. So the performance analysis runs, it goes, we can go back and look at the results. In here, when we look at those results, and so, okay, there's an issue. There's us having reproduced it. And so the issue is like, hey, instead of it showing a tabular form of the environment.
Okay, can you please, since you have already reproduced the issue, can you please show me the console logs for a while, if there is something in the console?
Maybe let me clear that out and kind of start fresh. So it looks like we're got a bad reference to the logo somewhere. But when I go to pull this up,
Okay, since we are using the built version of React, it will not show the entire stack of the error. Maybe a better way to do it will be UI dev version. Will be to run a UI dev version of the make command. So
okay. I think we will avoid a conflict here, right? Like if it runs on port 3000, we should be fine, right?
yeah.
So here's the dev version. Go over. Great. I would go over.
Okay, this is just a warning. You can maybe skip this.
Warning, 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 warning. Maybe I should only look at errors, huh? Oops, I did not click that. I think, I don't know. So are you,
let's scroll up a bit. I mean, these warnings are newer. Maybe let's clear the logs and maybe redo the because I mean maybe the warnings are hidden because maybe the error is hidden because there are newer warnings coming in. So let's do it and let's click the three dots again and scroll to the bottom of the error log and just one step above this. Okay, this is the error.
Oh, it did that unto its own.
All right, yeah, I will maybe I will look into it. Maybe if you can just copy paste the error log, that would be great.
Nice. Okay, good. I've got it copied.
Okay, we have more errors.
But yeah, so good. So I've got that copied. Maybe I've got the whole log copied. So I'll send it to you. I mean, but good. I think so what we did do just now was confirm that, yeah, in the case that what Prometheus was not connected and Grafana was not connected, that's one way to reproduce the issue. That's kind of curious because that's not how I recall seeing the issue before.
Can you do it with the mesh selected as none? Can you redo a performance test?
Or I'll just go back and not make any selection. I'll just
Okay, so this is very unexpected because I too was doing the same thing with connected. I had connected with Kubernetes. Just only one thing which I was not doing was I did not connect it to Istio. So yep, maybe there's something to do with Istio here. So yeah.
okay. I realized that I think I just lost those logs. So, okay. Well, I'll send you those logs. We had a similar. Did you recall the similar issue that we had where we're getting the same unexpected error has occurred? Were we mapping columns to the wrong data set?
Yeah. Maybe there was some issue with an object property that did not exist, and maybe there was some issue with the mapping as well. So that could be an issue here too. So I'll have to look into it.
Okay, I'll send you the logs. Does anybody have anything else to talk about? Shivai probably will have some updates on Major League Hacking for Friday, maybe, depending upon, I guess, if you hear anything back.
Yeah, hi Lee. So I did, I guess I filled the form that Jonathan from Emirates had shared. but I don't think so. I haven't I have received any response as of now. So I'm still waiting for receiving response on the first steps that need to be carried out, because this form was maybe just to get contact details of the participating organizations. So I guess probably during this week we should see that. Otherwise, we can just write a mail to London, because I guess I'm also aware of a couple of more organizations who had applied for it, but yeah, even they are waiting for receiving the final updates, since the program is to start from from June 1st June onwards.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks. Okay, good. On Friday, yeah, maybe just a quick description of that to folks on the call. And
sure.
I'll remind me if I haven't sent it by then to follow up with Jeremy, just to see if prodding him helps at all. Okay, fair enough. I think we're at time. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about?
I guess since the image app was released, probably we can have a demo for that.
Yeah, that's
The one that you and Kanishkar had created for.
a great point. That we should put that on Friday's agenda. We talked a little bit about it earlier on the call today, mostly to explain what it is and the fact that it needs continuous integration, but we didn't do a demo, and I suspect that would really help people. And so yeah, that's a good thing. And as a matter of fact, we should try to have Kanishkar demo it, because it would, he put in a lot of work. So. And so did you, by the way. Okay, fair enough. Very nice to see all of you. I'm glad that we got a troubleshooting session in. We finally kind of used the dev meeting for the dev meeting purpose, which was like opening up some code and working on some issues. For a while there, it seemed like we were just doing demos and things like that. So this is good. Okay, fair enough. Talk to you all very soon. We'll catch you in Slack. Okay, thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye all.